Okay, so here I have the Lange and Sohne Richard Lange watch. I think that's how you pronounce the name in my sort of bad American German. Most people here just call them Lang. Um, so we'll call it the Richard Lang from Lang or Lange. This is a pretty simple watch, but it's really beautiful. They make, in my opinion, the best watches in the world. From big brands, you're kind of looking at Lange for a bit more German Teutonic aesthetic, or Patek if you want to go more Swiss. But quality-wise, they're just fantastic. They're every Lange watch you take out of the box and look at, and it's just immediately apparent the level of quality that you get here. So this is a pretty simple one. It's manual wind and just a normal three-hand watch. But it's kind of a nod to old observatory chronometers, and it's basically just made to be a precision instrument, a kind of no frills precision instrument. So you can see the dial is this sort of multi-step. It's printed dial. The numerals are Roman and they're painted on, so they're very, very slightly raised. The paint gives a little bit of depth. And that minute track and seconds track is actually just printed on the dial. So the dial's very just sort of fine, and it's very, very nicely done. But it's nothing too sort of interesting or crazy. It's just, as you see in the whole watch, it's just a bunch of things that are expertly done. It's got a very, very fine texture to it almost. Almost like it's frosted very slightly. It's slightly silverish in color. It's definitely not white. And it has a little bit of a gold tint. I'm not sure if the tinting is due to the rose gold case, and so it just sort of looks a little bit gold, but it's definitely this sort of silver gold dial. And then obviously you have these beautiful gold hands, and you can see like the precision with which that minute hand touches the minutes track here. It's just everything on this watch is perfect, and I love this big blued seconds hand that also just perfectly sweeps across here. And I love the back of the hand there with the counterbalance is really pretty. You can see also here you have the 15, 30, 45, and 60 markers are in red, which is very, very subtle in person. They're actually printed very small, but it lends us a little bit of playfulness and just a subtle, interesting detail to the front of the watch. You have the typical Lange case, which is this kind of three-part case with this big center section and then the top bezel and the bottom. And here you have this beautiful movement. Again, Lange uses German silver for their movements, which is a very high quality material. This is called a three-quarter plate, this section of the movement that basically covers all of this area up. It's very, very traditional way of creating a movement and traditional movement finishing. Here you have the rubies seated in gold chatons and the blued screws and just sort of everything that you would expect from a very, very traditional high-end finished movement. Now, one of the really cool things on the Richard Lange series is they were trying to make a sort of perfect time-only watch, very simple, perfect watch. And so they wanted the highest level of finishing possible. And one of the really cool things that they did was they matched up this finishing pattern on all of the pieces. So you can see that even though this piece and that piece are different than the three-quarter plate, look how the lines just continue onto them perfectly. So it looks as if they were all sort of polished at one time. That's just a very, very, very high level of finishing that you're not going to find almost anywhere else. And you can see that sort of perfectly finished bevel there. The whole thing is just stunning, basically. And here you have again that engraved Lange balance cock, where each one of them is uniquely engraved, and this big balance wheel. So it's really a beautiful piece. I'll show it to you on the wrist. It fits very, very nicely. It's, I think, about 40 millimeters and really works great because it's not small. It's definitely not a 36 millimeter like small watch, but it's also not big. So it's very in proportion for most wrists, and it has a real wrist presence. The case has some chunk to it, and again, 40 millimeters is definitely not small. It might even be like 40 and a half. So it definitely doesn't look boring on the wrist like a 36 or 38 millimeter simple gold watch might. It really does pop, and it's just a beautiful watch by any standards. So there you have it. That's the A. Lange Sohne Richard Lange watch.